Alright guys, I'm working on my BD2G. The only reason I'm making this video is because I didn't see anyone on YouTube technically breaking down, working on this piece of equipment. So I'm going to show you step by step pretty much sort of how and what I'm working on and what is going on with it, and all the parts that I'm going to get. I'll kind of just break it down and show you. So technically what's going on is, if you can tell, misalignment right there. That before it even touches, it's got so much play. From what I understand, because I'm not a pro at this, I just went online, printed myself some of these, all these pages with my printer. There's 2 fat stacks right there. And I'm just doing it on my own. I have a mechanic that works on cats, and he's just going to help me kind of, I'm going to take everything apart. He's going to mechanically assess things. We're going to take this sucker apart. I want to rebuild it because I want to do everything perfectly. So I want to rebuild this thing. These are the, I don't even know what you would call. A mechanic would know. If anybody who's a mechanic knows, you could put in the description there. So this is the steering, I would say cylinder, whatever, something. I'll think of it next time, and I'll probably say it. So pretty much what's happening with this thing when I got it, I got it from one of my buddies. I helped them on the house, and they hooked me up with this thing. They gave it to me for work. We traded. It's got a lot of issues. As you can see, muffler rusted out. Technically, I pulled it out. I'm gonna replace that. Muffler's gone on it also. I mean, so on and so forth. This thing was flooded with oil. The engine almost looks sort of new. That's because I pressure washed it for about an hour and a half at the car wash. Spent about, I think, 60 bucks. I foamed it, sprayed it down. Foamed it, sprayed it down. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done. But okay, so pretty much what's going on with this thing is, whenever this thing starts tracking and it gets any kind of resistance, uphill, downhill, any resistance, a bump on the road or on your pathway, this thing starts turning to the left. So me and my mechanic went through the book. We checked it out. We came to the conclusion that this does not really have a final drive. If I remember, a final drive has the gearing on the outside. Let me show you here. On the outside here, like Cat does, the new Cat dozers. I run a D11 and a D10 at my job, but it has a final drive here on the outside. This doesn't. It has steering clutches, which are on the inside, and then it's got a, I don't know what this is, but I'm pretty sure it's a reducer. Reduces the gear, so on and so forth, whatever. I'm pretty sure there's a different name for it. And it's in here. There's oil that gets put in there. So pretty much what's happening is it's turning to the left. So we thought about it. So when you push on this thing, that is supposed to push hydraulic fluid into probably this hose right here that goes inside. I don't have a flashlight. I'll show you guys later. So pretty much it goes into here, and it pushes hydraulic fluid and disengages the clutch discs, pushes them apart, whatever it does in there. All right. So when it does that, it quits. It pretty much quits driving, because also at the same time, when you press on that, let me see if you could see it. So that pushes on the brake, as if you could see it right there. It goes down. It pushes on the brake, so it actually disengages the clutch so you don't burn it, and slams on the brake right after that. So that's why you got all these levers here. This is disengages it pretty much, and this slams it on the brake. So what happened is there's the space right there. And I'm thinking, now that my mechanic left and I had time to think about it, I think it didn't disengage all the way, because look at all the play that it had before it even starts pushing on it. On top of that, let's see if I can push that. So on top of that, this one feels better. It has more pressure in it, and maybe that's because of this one's being damaged or something's going on. And also this one makes noise, and it doesn't come back out as fast and as good as this one, this side. So what's happening is the clutch discs are burnt on that because this probably didn't get disengaged all the way, didn't get pushed all the way because there's a big fat gap already right there, as you can see. And it was creating issues and burnt this one because apparently this guy, he already rebuilt this side. Technically, they have already been someone's been tinkering with both of these sides because it's got that red, probably high temperature silicone there. So that's the issue. I'm going to be lifting this thing because I don't want to take the tracks off because you got to spin these to take all the bolts off right there. You could tell there's a bolt right there. There's 8 of them or something like that, 8 or 10. And you got to take all of them apart, and the only way to get to all of them, apparently, I got to take this apart. I'm going to take these up. Right now, I'm going to take this apart. I'm going to take this thing apart, kind of disassemble all this, get this whole place cleaned up out of the way so I can get into here. So that is what I'm going to be working on. So instead of taking off the tracks, so I can actually turn this, so I can unscrew the bolts on the inside, rotate the clutch. I'm just going to lift this whole thing up. I bought a 20-ton jack. About a 20-ton jack right there. I'm going to lift this whole thing up off the ground. I'm going to put it on blocks, and that way I could strap this thing, take a big fat strap, and just kind of rotate it. I'll do it that way. That way I don't have to take this apart. As you can tell, the tracks are good. They welded grousers on there. So these are good still. Tracks, everything seems to, linkage is good, just loose. This guy didn't take care of it at all. Many issues. So that's what I'm working on. Besides that, other issues. For instance, you got electric wires that are just all messed up. I'm going to look at that, fix that, make that look way better, not have it stick out as much. It doesn't have a skid plate on the bottom. Replace all the electric wiring that goes to the brake, or sorry, battery. I am going to have to cut this off because apparently it wasn't getting taken care of and it rotten through. As you can tell, there's little holes right there, right there, right there, right there. And if you could see that, it's soft. It's supposed to be about that thick right there. If you can see it, pretty thick. Roughly about that thickness, as you can tell right there, about that thickness right there. And I'm gonna have to cut this, drain the oil obviously, blah blah blah, cut this completely out and replace, weld a new piece, replace it. And I'm thinking to paint this whole thing. I'll probably do it in the summer outside once I fix it, runnable. I barely got it into my garage. It's just a blade is 8 feet wide. My garage is, I have to say it's 9, the garage. Obviously, it's a little narrower than that, but barely got the blade through. Barely got in because I had to maneuver it one way only. So I had to, it was backing up and it was turning. Wait, so it was backing up and it was turning this way. So I'd have to cranker, turn, and just get it all the way in here. And I did. Everything is good. So I'm going to work on that. Need a new seat. Seats tore. This is cushion is not even part of it. I just put that there for my kiddo to sit on, but it needs a whole new seat. I'm gonna buy a seat with like a little suspension on there. That way it's like a newer seat. Definitely needs a new muffler. Needs new filter. Filter's filthy dirty. I'm gonna change all the oils, radiator, oil in the engine. I am also gonna change the hydraulic oil. I'm going to clean out this tank, which I looked inside. It's pretty clean. The fuel tank, it's pretty clean. But it needs, it definitely needs a little bit of oil. This thing's been sitting for like, I'd say 5 years with the diesel in there. It has been started earlier before that because I tried to get it out of the ditch. It was down in the ditch. Couldn't get out because the tracks wouldn't spin. That track wouldn't spin. So it got out of the ditch. But before the winter hit, I tried to start it with the old batteries. I tried to charge them up and it wouldn't work. So I bought brand new batteries right there. 2 batteries. I put them in. This thing fired up like a champ. It was a half a crank. And it fired up, and it seems like the diesel didn't air itself out or out of its power or strength, whatever you want to call it. And but yeah, pretty much all the filters are going to get changed. What else I'm looking at? I'll replace this. And I want to make this thing look good. The dog, he had dogs, chewed everything up here. It's only got 2,000, if I correctly read that, 2,333 miles on there. So actually pretty low. U-joint is loose. It needs new U-joints right there, and probably a bearing that goes into the clutch. It's a clutch. It's a 3-speed forward, 3-speed reverse. Really nice little dozer. When it's running, when I'm just running it, it runs really well. You hardly can get any parts on this thing in America. There's only one website. When you Google BD2G parts, there's only on Google only one website that pulls up that's in America that has all the clutch. Pretty much all the clutch stuff. It's actually a junkyard, but they do have new parts. They have some new parts, but very little. So the crazy part is I asked a lady there if they had one of these, and she said no. You just have to take it apart, go to Napa, CarQuest, whatever, and just try to find stuff there and all the seals and O-rings and whatever you need to replace, kind of rebuild kit. You got to get it from there. There is an out of country, and I think it's made in China, Alibaba, whatever website, and they do have a bunch of stuff there, but it's out of country. I'm gonna have to look into it, see if I want to order anything from there. I'd rather order it here from the US of A. So pretty much, you can't find parts for this thing. These things are rarely in the junkyards. I mean, they are so rare. I've tried to look online. I did find a muffler on eBay, which I need to buy ASAP. One muffler. I've Googled it, and I've only found one muffler in the USA that has a muffler for sale. It's only 250 bucks, whatever. It's pretty cheap, but it's kind of hard to come by parts for this thing. If anybody knows where to get good parts or used parts in the lower 48, let me know in the description below so I can call them up, see what they have. I technically am going to maybe be able to get away with everything that I need. They did not have the rebuild kit seals for the little hydraulic drum piece that is like back here inside that disengages the clutch. She didn't have a rebuild kit for that company, so I'm gonna have to look into it and see if I can find it, because I'm actually going to replace both of them. So the clutch disc is actually about, I think it was like $27. It's in the $20, and the clutch spacer disc, whatever you want to call that, that's like 17 bucks. So it's dirt cheap to rebuild these things, especially the clutch discs. So I'm just going to go ahead and rebuild both of them, adjust it fully, rebuild everything I need to, hopefully to the fullest of my abilities. Make sure that I don't have to go back into here. As long as all this is adjusted and nobody rapes this thing, I probably won't have to go back in here for the rest of its lifetime. Poor adjustment, so on and so forth, creates issues, which I work at a big company, and I run D10s, D11s, RTDs, blah, 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 loaders. And when you do Band-Aid, when you Band-Aid things, it's cheaper for them to Band-Aid stuff and fix it again later than replacing it. So I don't want to do that. I just want to replace it and not worry about it or think about it. I wish I could find a lot more parts, but it's really hard. This dipstick that went into my clutch, that thing had so much rust on the rubber. You can't tell right there, but it was full of rust. I actually had to stick a flathead screwdriver in there and pry this thing out. As you can tell, this thing's all chewed up and bent. I bent it back, but it's all chewed up. You can tell right there. Well, we took vice grips and we were trying to just pry that thing out, and it was tough. So this thing's, like I'm saying, poor maintenance on it. But in all things set aside, it runs good. They said they rebuilt the engine on it about 5, 6, maybe 8 years ago. Not 5, because I know them for 5, 6 years. So I'd say probably more like 8. But they did say they rebuilt the engine, so I'm kind of happy and glad about that. because that's one less thing I got to worry about as long as I take care of it. He did lose the cap. He did put this type of a cap on, which he didn't tighten all the way. And so what happened was this thing came off and sprayed oil everywhere. But might have to get a new cap or keep that. We'll see if it leaks. I'll tighten it up all the way. But technically, yeah, change out all the oils. Even though hydraulic oil looks a little bit too milky color. So I don't like that color. I'm gonna change that out for sure, 100%. You can't tell. Yeah, right. You can't see anything anyway. Actually, I do have a flashlight right here. Okay, so a little bit milky. I'm pretty sure it's perfectly fine. Somebody might say, hey, that looks good to me, but I'm gonna have to change everything out because it probably had got rust in there, and I don't want to deal with it. The hydraulic pump in here, I think if I correctly remember, there's a hydraulic pump here somewhere. I can't remember where it's at, but all the oils kind of look good, like they're brand new. I mean, if you can tell right there, that looks really clean. Like, see that drip? I don't know if you've seen that, but that looked really clean. And so does my clutch. Actually, don't remember what that looks like in there. This is funny. So this is apparently a dipstick, but it's really short, and the breather's right there. And apparently, you know, I don't think you got to put the oil up to there. But when I take my bigger dipstick from my clutch, put it in there, pull it out, right? Can't even reach it in there. You got to go deeper. Oh, barely. A little bit on there. Let me go even deeper. So as you can tell, it's good. It's really good. I'm really happy. But I'm going to change everything out. My mechanic recommended me to change everything out because then I can change the filters out too. And knowing that everything is changed out and good to go, then I'll be much more happier. Because I like, when I buy anything, cars, rebuilt cars or anything like that, I always change all the oils. Just because that's the way I roll. Spark plugs, oil, so on and so forth. So, if you guys have any suggestions, any advice for me rebuilding this thing, I'm going to rebuild it in the next few months. Let me know. If you're looking at this video and it says it's 4 months old or 5, I'm probably already done working on it, so no need to get a hold of me. But technically, I'm making the video. Again, I'm letting you guys know I'm making the video just because there's barely any videos explaining anything, showing any kind of like mechanic work, how to take these apart, how to adjust the brakes. I'll show you guys everything how to do, and that way you guys can take care of your dozer so it can last long and have a good, healthy life and treat you well. So I'm pretty happy. I'm gonna make this thing look like a champ. Hopefully, try to paint it and show you the byproduct of it. Thanks for watching, folks. Appreciate it.